And we can still be setting up stuff. I don't care. This is nonchalant here.
Right.
You know how I roll. You know how I roll.
Talk for 20 minutes about the oak flat.
Listen, there's huge acorns there. I want to hear was huge acorns. Hello everyone, thanks for coming outside with us today. I'm here in the tree with Nate Fry from the Budget Sportsman. We are getting two guys in one tree out of two saddles, shooter and filmer setup today. We've been working through some bumps in the road. It's been going all right so far. The way we have it set up right now is not exactly how it'd be set up in the tree. We're a little bit more, if this was 6 o'clock, the 3 and 9, we'd actually be closer to more like 7 and 4 to kind of get here. But for the sake of the camera, and we'll go through the shot angles that we're practicing when we're actually here. But for the sake of us being on the tree so you can see us right now, that's where we are. What we want to go through today is what we've discovered so far. Last year we filmed with a hang-on and a guy in the saddle, me being the saddle, Nate in the hang-on. I'll put that video, if I actually remember to put the links, in the video.
I'll text you if you don't.
Yeah, you'll text me if I don't. Throw a card up here, down there, of Nate and I shooting my buck opening day last year, and we were at that kind of 7, 8, and 4 situation with that tree stand. Now that we're in the saddle, we're trying to figure out where the camera should be positioned, where our platforms are for the shooter and for the camera guy, and all those things. So we're gonna run through as much as we can today, but Nate, real quick, tell us about the extra camera stuff and what camera arm you are running, because some people might not know because it's on this side of the tree.
Yeah, so sorry that it's hidden behind the tree here, but this is how I set up my camera arm when I'm in the saddle on my right side over here. This is the 4th Arrow stiff arm with the 2.0 base. Someday, maybe the Budget Sportsman will be able to afford the 3.0 base, but for now we're running the big heavy 2.0. I'm running a Canon 80D with the 18 to 135 kit lens and a Rode Video Micro on top.
What about this bad boy?
Okay, so this is something new for this year that I'm trying. I'm pretty excited about this. This is just a selfie stick I had laying around the house with the GoPro Session out on the end of it. And then my selfie stick had a 1/4 thread, so it's gonna be kind of hard to explain this, but I just went down into the shop, grabbed some random hardware and DIY'd a little bracket to actually attach that onto an over the center buckle from Double Step Outdoors. It's pretty sturdy on there. Sure, it wobbles, but we'll show you a clip of this, but it's a pretty cool shot, I think, looking back at the hunters, and you'll be able to see exactly what's going on both hunting and filming.
Yeah, the second angle camera has been like huge, and I know for, at least for me, watching a lot of the guys on, Nate included, but like Garrett and Catman, everybody else that might run a second angle camera, is that while you're moving this camera around, you're bumping it off things and you get some shaky footage here, this is a great filler to add in to make it look so much smoother and cleaner. We did that a lot with our opening hunt last year. Yeah. It was a bunch of fun. You've used it a lot with shooting Monster Taco, what, 2 years ago? Yeah. So yeah, yep. So it's been really nice. This will be an interesting addition for us this year. Let's talk about, so we're using the tethered Phantom saddles and the tethered Predator platform. Doesn't matter what you're using, but in terms of the shooting and everything, nothing has changed depending on the saddle or anything. It's all exactly the same. So we're gonna assume our 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock kind of positions here and kind of get to whether we're leaning or standing, leaning or sitting, where we would actually be. Of course, our strong side is off here to my left. I'm a right-handed shot, which is great because we put Nate's camera base and arm on that side of the tree. So that allows the cameraman to be on the opposite side of the tree, which keeps him totally out of my way as the shooter, but also allows him to have all the access he wants. I'm gonna come up here. Nate, you can see how much he comes around the tree here. He can really swing in. Now, obviously, he's not gonna come through here if I need to make that shot, but it really allows this strong side shot to occur. It also allows for the weak side shot to occur. Because he's over here, he doesn't have to maneuver with me. If I'm gonna shoot here at my 3 o'clock, I like to shoot over the bridge, so I will come over the bridge, and Nate has that easily as the cameraman on the opposite side of the tree. I think the one thing that really helps with this is by putting the cameraman higher. Yeah. I think so a little bit, putting it up a little bit higher, because it keeps the camera base then approximately both of our waistlines, which allows for really easy movement. I think if Nate was lower, he'd be more close to my kneecaps. This also makes it really nice, that height for the interview shots. We can either do it on this side of the tree or even more comfortably, because he's already over there, coming over and doing it on this side of the tree. I can lean down into it. It doesn't have to be looking up my nostril or looking down because it's too high. It's nice and right here. It's comfortable for him to use. It's comfortable for me to use. and then we can sit here and do whatever. As a complete side note that I literally just thought of, it's nice that we're kind of at 4 and 7 instead of 3 and 9, because we can communicate with each other, but also we can watch each other's backs a little bit. It's nice being out of the saddle here, because when we were out of a tree stand in the saddle, Nate's back was to me, and we were both facing the same direction, which really sucked. So that meant I had to turn around, or he had to constantly be turning around. Here we can kind of watch each other's six, if you will, and we can keep that access available and open. In terms of shooting 360 degrees, we tried earlier, we pretty much got 340.
Yep.
Right? What was probably the trickiest shot though for the camera guy in terms of the angle?
There really wasn't much. I think the trickiest angle is probably somewhere over, for me, it'd be about my like 10 o'clock. If we're talking about 6 o'clock here, then it'd be about over around 7 or 8 o'clock. And the tricky part about it is knowing which side of the tree to be on. Whether I need to be on this side, which works good here, but at some point as we move around that direction, I've got to be actually switching over to the opposite side of the tree. And so there's a break there where you have to try to figure out which side of the tree that you need to be on.
And of course, obviously you're going to plan for all of your strong side shot. That's where you expect your movement to be. But last year, my buckshot on opening day was on the weak side. Did you have any weak side kills last year, or were they all strong side stuff? Now, granted, you were in a tree stand.
I was in a tree stand last year, and I had a weak side shot out of a tree stand.
Okay,
yeah.
So I mean, it's the same deal. But yeah, we practiced that a lot earlier, at least thought about it a lot earlier, that although this is the least anticipated shot here, you know, approximately my 5 o'clock, you know, this is obviously the worst shot, like right up in here, like 2, 3 o'clock in terms of a right-handed archer. That's by far the worst. And the other thing is too, with me actually being at 4 o'clock here, you know, or excuse me, 7 o'clock, if this is 6, I'm really blocking out Nate. And if I go to pivot and turn to shoot that way, I'm definitely blocking him out. So
that's where I need to come around the other side.
Yeah, he's really gonna have to come on that side of the tree. And that's gonna have to be a game time decision. You know, you can plan and prep for it as much as you would like, but that's gonna have to be a game time decision in the moment when you're actually gonna go take that shot at that deer, because I don't think we can actually say, oh yeah, that's gonna definitely happen and it's just gonna work. We're gonna have to, as it's not, and then again, communication, because we're facing each other, I think is be really slick.
Yeah, you know, I think any hunting situation is fluid though. You're always constantly figuring out, and you just gotta react with what's thrown at you. And when two guys in the tree, that's kind of compounded. But I think, like you said, being able to see each other is gonna be really nice. We can communicate, whisper, work with each other with what's going on.
I will say too, we always talk about as saddle hunters being able to get in any tree possible. This tree is clearly leaning. You can definitely see it on camera. And with two guys, it's obvious, you know, the lean's towards Nate. Being a camera guy, he doesn't have to worry about the shots because he's trying to deal with everything right in front of him. But I can tell right now with two guys in this tree, without me being able to stay on that side, I'm struggling to stay up here. Like my platform's actually at the 4 o'clock right now, but I have to kind of stand, or at the 7 o'clock rather, I have to stand more like 9 because this tree's leaning. So I think that does narrow down our trees a little bit back to a normal tree, a little bit straighter. We can deal with a lot of branches and stuff, obviously, way better than like a climber or even a hang-on. But that's something that's clearly obvious, that even though saddles you can get in every tree, I mean, I'm easily, here I go, like that, I'm not even trying, and it's just swinging me around.
Where do you have your knot? Because you're on a leaning tree. Like I've got mine, so like I've got mine on this side, and I'm actually staying pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I feel, okay, so like, all right. I guess we can unpack this a little bit too, talking about leaning trees. So you can position away from the lean, so the lean's going this way, and I can put my knot on that side, and it behaves a little bit better because now the pole is coming on from the opposite side of the tree, away from the lean. If I had it more centered, like this, it really wants to keep me going that way. So I can do that. The problem is that ideally we wouldn't be in this leaning tree. Yeah. That's the main kicker. But this is more comfortable. I just didn't want to be sitting constantly at an angle for you folks at home. Although this is definitely more indicative of where I would actually be.
Yeah, we'd be.
If this is the 6 o'clock side of the tree, I'm 7 and Nate's closer to 4. We have full communication right here, so on and so forth.
I think one thing about the leaning tree too is I'm probably on the downhill side of the lean here, and that's something, if you're by yourself, I think could be a better position to be in than on that uphill side of the lean.
Yeah. Does anything change? I mean, this is another thing too, like nothing really changes for self-filming here.
No, if I was self-filming, I'd actually be set up exactly the same way, except for this second camera angle. what I would do is I'd put that on my opposite side and have my bow hanging here. But because normally we would be in this position a little bit closer together, we're going to put the camera here where we can see both of us on this side of the tree. But as far as where this camera goes, it's exactly the same for me for just self-filming. And I can make all the shots pretty much 360 with the camera in this position on the right-hand side of the tree.
If anything, a touch higher.
Yeah, if anything, I would have my base maybe just 2 inches higher, 1.5 inches, 2 inches higher. But it's pretty close to where I like it.
I will say too, I feel like there's no point where the camera arm is in my way with two guys. Like I feel like in solo, obviously you're gonna have stuff get in the way. But in our situation, I don't feel like anything's getting in the way the way we're playing around.
Especially not in this size tree. I think if you got in a really small tree, and depending if I didn't have this base around far enough, I think there'd be a potential to be in the way over here, maybe. But I see it as being a very 1 in 100 kind of thing, the perfect size tree, the perfect positioning. But for the most part, it's not in the way at all.
Right. And one thing, and we'll do it real quick here. We'll start with me doing the worst shot possible, and then I'll just kind of pivot around the tree, change over to where I would shoot, and we'll have Nate follow me around. One thing that I have always done saddle hunting, I make it sound like I've been doing it for 20 years, but I haven't. But you could stand off, on your platform and lean away from your shot. But I find that it's just super more solid to put your knee into the tree, to turn, to pivot, to take the shot. And that also then opens up camera angles. Because I'm a pretty big dude. I'm 6'4", Nate's over 6 foot himself. I'm going to be in the position of him, when we film each other, is that when we're away from the tree, if I come out here, all the way out here, and I turn to take this shot, I'm now blocking off the entirety of that camera. Nate has a pretty lengthy camera on, but he can't do it. And the same thing's true over here. If I come all the way out and I'm like fully extended, I'm not leaning into the tree or something silly like that, my bow and arrow and everything, if the deer's back in here, close to like the 7 o'clock, it could be in the way. So just brace yourself into the tree. Makes life a lot simpler. And we can pan around here as the wind whips. So we'll start off here, 6 o'clock on this tree face here, my 3 o'clock, weak side. We'll start here. So again, the tree's a little bit leaning, so I'm gonna have to go with the lean. Here's that shot here. I can kind of bring myself up to come back to my 6 o'clock. Come around, Nate can fully cover. At this point, we're now in strong shot mode. He's got the entirety of this part of the tree covered. When we get on this side is where it gets a little bit hairy, because I got to push on this side of the tree. Nate can still follow. He might have to turn his camera screen a little bit around so he can see what he's doing. But up at this point, we've basically covered about 340-ish degrees, which for us is really good.
I think actually on this side, I think you can probably even come a little bit farther around than where we started.
If this tree wasn't this, this is a pretty bad amount of lean here. Now granted, I can keep pretty good form hanging out away from the tree like this, playing with the lean, and I can cover up to even straight behind Nate here, which is not ideal. Would much rather be up against the tree to take that shot, but we can still cover it. And again, with your weak side, you're just gonna have to plan and hopefully see that deer long before it comes out, because if it surprises you, I think it'd be over.
Right, and like anything else, when you set up your tree stand, you set up your saddle, you're setting up for that strong side shot. That's where you're expecting deer to be. And so for us, that's gonna be on this side where the camera's just gonna be pointed that way, Nate's gonna be ready to shoot that way, and we're gonna expect deer movement over on this side for your strong shot.
One thing real quick, some people have asked, and you might have seen it before, some of the guys, like Ernie does a real good job from Tethered. If you're a right-handed shot and you want to turn, instead of doing the drop shot by turning and spinning like that, you can come up under your bridge and put it across your shoulder and stand on your platform like it's a tree stand. That puts you real close to the tree, and that gets me completely out of the way, and Nate can kind of pick and choose his spot. So your bow's over here, so I pick it up, I come up under with my release hand, and the tree is leaning, so it's not super fluid, but I can now use my platform just like a tree stand. I can lean into the tether a little bit, but now I can use the platform like a tree stand, and I can do that. Now that's a pretty, as you can see, I don't do it a whole lot. I don't practice that move, if ever, but you can lean into it, you can stay pretty comfy. Aaron from the Hunting Public did this a lot. When he self-filmed in Missouri, he did this.
You would see him just standing there back to the tree.
Yeah, and I will say, as someone who used a tree stand for a long time, this is super comfortable. But you know, it's not what it's intended to be, but it totally, of course, can totally support your weight.
Right.
Nate, you can't do this. Explain this, because this is the weirdo over here with his platform
Yeah,
angle.
okay, I'm the weirdo, but try it before you knock it, okay? The tethered Predator has the leveling bolt, and what I found that when I would keep my platform level, I would end up either out on the edge, standing only on my arches, or I would stand with my feet flat, but my ankles would be kind of overextended. And so what I've done is I've actually taken that leveling bolt all the way backed out as far as it will go, so my platform is actually angled down, similar to something like the Scout Solo from out on a limb. Not quite that much angle, but I find it really gives me a lot of comfort in my ankles. But it would make turning around to do that shot a lot more difficult, because then you'd be standing on that leaning platform rather than a level platform.
Yeah, I only have mine. I have mine angled down just a touch, just a fuzz, so it's not sitting up. It's probably maybe 2 to 5 degrees in an downward angle. You don't want to go too much, because then you lose the cam over action of the platform. Nate has his probably about the max before he would lose cam over action. Pretty close to maybe a 10 degree. Now I will say it's comfortable, and it's definitely not, there's nothing wrong with it. But like, even when I turn around here at, you know, 2 to 5 degrees, I can feel my feet are pointing down and away from the tree. Now with me leaning into the bridge and the tether and everything, I feel very secure. The platform's a good size. If you did it with the XL, actually, it'd probably be even better.
Yeah.
In terms of just the size of the platform, the Predator
Especially
X.
for guys with big 12 and 13 size shoes.
Right, which is, I have 12s and a half. So, I don't know, just some things to play with. You definitely want to do many dry runs of this. This was just day one for us. It actually went pretty well, actually.
Yeah, it did. But I'm glad we did it today in the daylight, not opening morning in the dark. Yeah. We definitely ironed out a few bugs.
Yeah, we ironed a few bugs. We did that last year. We did one dry run, about 20 yards that way, and it went all right. But I feel that this actually works way better. The mobility is obviously a huge factor, but the fluidity of the situation compared to someone who's stuck on a tree stand platform.
Right.
Because you can shift your whole body out of the way to follow the camera instead of having to fish the camera in between you and the tree.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was filming from a hang-on tree stand last year while Nate was hunting from the saddle, there was no way that we could shoot and film 360 degrees. I mean, we're not quite getting 360 now. There'd be some pretty tricky shots, but we're getting almost that. And out of the hang-on stand, it just wasn't going to happen. I mean, you have to, you know, if your back's to the tree, then that camera has to wrap around the film man. And I don't know, but we weren't anywhere close to 360 on that.
No, and like, even though we're not, you know, we're probably close to like 320, 330. Yeah. At 320, 330, there's not a scotia of, this is getting sketchy. It doesn't get sketchy until the very end of where it's really mobile, at least going around, complete around the tree. With Nate on that side in the tree stand, or me on this side in the tree stand filming the other, or shooting, you know, the other person shooting, it would not have flown. I think we probably had at most 270 in terms of field of movement before it really started to get weird.
All right.
Now we have to know.
Yeah.
Now we have to know actually how far are we getting here.
So we're going to start at the camera.
Yep.
And we're going to try to go all the way around back to the camera with all of our shots.
So I'm going to have to shift. I'm an over the bridge guy. I don't mind that. I got real long arms, a big dude, 6'4", so I don't mind the over the bridge shot. And quite frankly, this coming all the way out here for us, it might work, but I don't like fighting with the elbow because I have long arms. I don't like fighting with the elbow into the tree. So I'm going to start with the over the bridge shot, which means I'm going to have to transfer going the other way. So it's going to look a little clunky, but we'll see what we got here. So right at the camera, that's, you know, I'll just go off of my numbers. That's 3 o'clock there. So 3 o'clock.
And for me, that's easy to film. Camera's between me and the tree. It's super easy, no obstruction.
Right, and I can even come back in here a little bit, but that we're gonna start at 3, but I can cover up to almost noon, definitely 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Here, I'm already reached my limit, so I'm gonna have to turn around, which is fine. Pivot against the tree. Now I've got 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
And at this point is about where I need to transition to the other side of the tree.
My 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, knee against the tree, 9 o'clock, 10, 11. Here's my noon. I'm gonna shift my feet a little bit, put my knee higher on the tree. Back to 1, back to 2. I can almost, almost get back to 3, but at this point, and it makes sense, we just have a little bit of camera clearance over here on this side. But I mean, I'm getting to 230 at this point here. Now, granted, Nate and I are big dudes, but this is also a pretty daggone big tree. This tree is pushing 2 foot in diameter.
And if you come back around the way you were shooting before, when you cross your bridge, you probably are gonna actually cover, I mean, you're back here to that area where we started getting really awkward.
Right.
Where you're shooting past my camera arm, and now we've covered it from the opposite side.
Right, and this is one thing that we experienced last year firsthand. And granted, Nate was in a tree stand, but that deer came off from my 1 o'clock. And I knew that it had to come down this way. So long before I pulled up my binos, I was already positioned this way with my hips. You can see it in the footage. Binos, I had to pull the bow over. That was a little sketchy because I hit the broadhead on the tree. But I pulled the bow over and I was ready to go long before he even got there. I put my knee up against the tree, came up to him, and it was a nice, really nice, easy 8-yard shot. But something super simple like that, if you can prepare for it, makes it a lot smoother. But I mean, we covered 360 there, you know, with me starting at 1 o'clock instead of starting at 3.
Glad we weren't in that tree.
I think it was a whole tree just fell down.
But if we were to take that scenario from last year where that deer was coming from your 1 o'clock and you were ready, like you were saying, well, I would probably want to be over here and I could be ready, you know, no matter if that deer came down and it came on on that side toward the camera like that, I could just follow that right around, no problem, and you could just position for your shot. The only thing we ran into last year was knowing which way it was going to go as it was coming toward us. Was it going to break your strong side or your weak side?
Right. And of course, obviously, like right now we're sitting at a completely open scenario, 2 foot off the ground, but you're going to have shooting lanes, and particularly early season like this when everything's green, and you're going to know, like both of you are going to be able to go, yeah, this is a shooting lane, this isn't a shooting lane. And so we'll be able to predetermine that pretty quick. If you have a full range of motion like this, it actually kind of makes it more complicated than if you just have individual lanes. Because then if you just have individual lanes, if that deer's headed that way and I only have 2 lanes over here, I'm set up for those 2 lanes, and vice versa. If that deer's headed this way, I only have 1 lane and it's at my 3 o'clock, which is the camera, I'm gonna have to be ready. I'm gonna have to be here waiting for it to happen, either do that or go up and under the bridge just like that and you know, and get my full pivot and then be able to shoot it. So I don't know. I think we're gonna have way more fun with this. And also the mobility of this and our ability to have everything, it looks a little complicated with all the ropes and stuff, but actually because we're offset, everything's out of the way of each other.
So one of the things that happened to me last year was I was sitting in a hang-on tree stand and I had like 6 bucks go by about 100 yards away before 10 o'clock in the morning. And I just didn't feel mobile enough to actually get down, move all that gear and get set up without just making a royal ruckus. Today, Nate and I got up in the tree in like maybe 20, 25 minutes tops. That includes everything, hanging, climbing, hanging, camera gear, everything, ready to hunt minus our bows. And so I think it's a super mobile system. We were super quiet.
Sure, we're taking our time.
Yeah,
too.
and we were taking our time. This is our first day, no rush. You know, if we got in a situation like that where we're just clearly in the wrong spot, we could definitely make a move. And you know, both of us working together, we can get everything packed up and get moved pretty quickly.
All right.
What a rodeo.
What a rodeo. But this is how our life goes. Like, change the battery packs, memory card gets full, all sorts of stuff. Anyway.
Forgot to bring the batteries.
Forgot to bring the batteries for the second mic pack.
Told me the wrong size battery.
Yeah, I didn't bring all the things I needed to bring Nate like weeks ago. It's fine. It's cool. Everything's great. Hope you're able to get outside and enjoy the sport of archery hunting if you so choose. Definitely enjoy God's beautiful creation. And remember, to get off YouTube. Ah, I messed it up! I messed it up! It was gonna be great. So that's all for this video. If you have any questions about any other gear or how we get up the tree or anything else that pertains to the sport of archery and archery hunting, follow me in the description by the links, this thing. There's links. I never have a problem. I do this in one take for every single one of my videos at home. So that's all for this video. If you have any questions about saddle hunting or archery or anything else that pertains to bow hunting, please follow the links in the description below. Hit me up on Facebook and Instagram. You can even send me an email, and of course you can always leave a comment here on YouTube. Hope you're able to get outside, enjoy the sport of archery hunting if you so choose. Definitely enjoy God's beautiful creation, and remember,
get off YouTube and get outdoors into God's great creation.
Hope we'll get to see you next time.